Australia, England, New England, South Africa, and the West Indies. First order of business, a SmackDown match with the Church of England. Nickname suggestion, the Holy Bowlers. Ever since the Church of England formed 500 years ago, wasn't it about 500 years ago? Let's see, early 1600s if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's been about 500 years. They have been at each other's throats, so to speak, for all that time. All because King of England at the time wanted to divorce his wife. The Catholic Church said, no, well, screw you guys, I'm going to go form my own church. The hell you are! And, well, they did it anyway. So there you go. All right. I could bring up a family situation on that, but I think I better keep that one to myself. Regards the difference between Catholics and Protestants and innocent bystanders, but it's regarding a wedding that I went to 8 years ago around this time. But at some point I'll reveal it, but not today. Not today. A few other things in the news I want to bring up, and then we'll get into the heart of today's program. Well, learned about this just a few minutes ago. The White House has fired a senior official, and a senior White House official has been sacked after being unmasked as the man behind a widely read Twitter account that provided an abrasive commentary on his colleagues for more than 2 years. Okay, whistleblower gone bad. I believe his name is pronounced Jofi Joseph, age 40, was fired from his job on the National Security Council Nuclear Non-Proliferation Team. Seems that Mr. Joseph posted under the now-defunct Twitter name at NatSecWonk. He has since apologized for his inappropriate and mean-spirited comments. In his tweets, Mr. Joseph gave a lacerating commentary on anything from policy to personal appearance. For example, was Huma Abedin wearing beer goggles to the night she met Anthony Weiner, he tweeted, referring to the scandal-hit former New York mayor candidate and his wife, a former aide of Hillary Clinton. Almost as bad as pairing as Samantha Powers and Cass Sunstein, he added, referring to the U.S. envoy to the UN and her husband, who is a former White House official. Now, this month, Mr. Joseph joined Republican attacks on Mrs. Clinton for her perceived failings of her handling of last year's attack on the U.S. diplomatic post in Benghazi, and he tweeted that Secretary Clinton had few policy goals and no wins in the Middle East. Then he made the attack more personal by saying that Chelsea Clinton was assuming all of her parents' vices and targeted figures such as Republican commentator Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney's wife Ann for their looks and weight. The Daily Beast website broke the news of his sacking, describing it as a shock and saying that Mr. Joseph was well known among policy wonks, but it said that inside the administration there was little sympathy for the man who they feel had betrayed their confidence while taunting them all the while. So, sounds like Mr. Joseph's got some issues that he needs to work out. And he deserved to be fired. Without a doubt. I don't think this guy deserves a second chance. It's an honor to work for the presidency, and to screw up on this kind of a level, it's inexcusable. Now, if you don't like the president, keep that stuff to yourself. Especially if he's paying you. But don't go egging people on and then talk bad about them behind their backs. That's just wrong, rude, and inappropriate, and very childish. I admit I'll probably stir up some things on here, but I do it from the cozy confines of home, like in Studio 4 today. But, one of the lessons I learned early on in my professional career is don't talk about the hand that is feeding you. If you don't like it, you get out of there. But you don't talk about it while he's paying your bills. Okay, even if he's doing something wrong. Now, if he's doing something illegal or immoral, that could be another thing. But just because you don't like the job, or like the people, or the situation, that's no excuse. couple other things I wanted to bring up on this program regarding Pat Robertson. I believe I played some of these sound bites on yesterday's show at the start. Pat Robertson back in the news, this time a double whammy. First one, let's see here. He said early last week, I believe, and that is regarding, where is it? Diets. Dieters beware. You know, that slim down regimen you're trying, maybe going against God's plan, according to Pat Robertson. Well, the colorful television evangelist Pat Robertson took aim at low-carb diets like the Atkins diet and slammed such plans as ultimately unhealthy and as violations of God's principles. The subject was broached during Monday's episode of Robertson's The 700 Club. This was last Monday, the 14th, on the Christian Broadcasting Network. The segment includes a story about Jimmy Moore, a formerly obese man who was able to lose nearly 200 pounds in 1 year by cutting out carbohydrates like bread and loading up on proteins and fats like eggs, cheese, butter, coconut oil, and bacon. Now, apparently, taking issue with Moore's story, Robertson told viewers that he disagrees with the Atkins diet, which he believes can lead to inflammation, gout, and violates the principles that God set down. Well, that may well be, but really, this is against God's will. I'm not having a hard time buying that one, Mr. Robertson, if that is indeed your real name. Well, then later in the week, Pat Robertson, maybe he had a bad weekend. Well, it seems that the octogenarian television evangelist went on an anti-atheism tirade this past Monday morning, blaming Nazism and guillotines on liberals, humanists, and atheists. Really. And I'll play that sound clip here in just a moment. Now, but essentially what he said was, liberals, so-called socialists, progressives, they moved away from God, and you fill in the blank. And now we're paying for it. Well, now, it's unclear what God loves people has to do with liberalism, Nazis, guillotines, or atheism. But Robertson clearly felt comfortable with the Godwin's Law analogy. Of course, the question is, do you really have to ask yourself, oh, really, Robertson? Then is, what would people do without God? You know, why is it that Pat Robertson believes that we need God to make the correct life choices anyway? Is there a rash of murders or white-collar crimes or robberies or rapes or any other evidence of lawlessness being committed by atheists? No. As a matter of fact, the new civil rights movement reported earlier this summer that atheists tend to commit less crimes, divorce less, and are often better educated than their fellow Christians. In that case, I'm a goddamn genius. Okay? I'm being sarcastic there. But, and that study comes from an evangelical Christian pollster. Yeah. So perhaps the question you really should ask yourself is, why are some people who claim to live by the Bible, by God's laws, so lawless? My answer? They aren't reading the Bible. Or at least they're skipping over sections. Now, to be clear, well, first of all, what is wrong with those religious people? Not all of them, of course, but the ones who cannot make proper choices in life. Well, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with God or even religion. But it seems to me that society's problems are caused more by those who claim to believe in God, but are so incapable of actually following His words, than by atheists that they blame atheists for their shortcomings. Now, I'm not saying all of them do, but a lot of them tend to target people like me. And it's time for those attacks to stop, Pat. It's time for those attacks to stop. It's not my problem. It's time to grow up and learn a few facts and start really looking at people. Okay? You gotta look beyond your own beliefs. Okay. couple of lighter stories. Actually, one light story and then one more observation. Then we'll get into the heart of today's program. I'm feeling a little bit long-winded today. The World Series, as I said, begins tonight with Game 1 in Boston. And, of course, wouldn't be a World Series without politicians making bets. Well, New Jersey Governor... did I say New Jersey? I meant Massachusetts Governor. Good grief. Deval Patrick and Missouri Governor Jay Nixon announced a friendly wager on the series. Now, if the Red Sox win, Governor Nixon says he'll donate a 4-pack of Cardinal Cream Soda from Fitz's Bottling Company in the Del Mar Loop, a box of chocolates from Bissinger's Chocolates, and an assortment of Italian baked goods from Missouri Baking Company on the Hill. Now, if the Cardinals win, Governor Patrick says he'll donate New England clam chowder from Legal Seafoods, a variety of beverages from Polar Beverages, and a selection of baked goods from Dancing Deer Bakery Company in Boston. And so I wish both teams good luck, but I think the Cardinals have the advantage on the World Series. They seem to know that what it takes to win. And I read an interesting statistic last night. Basically, I think it said that any kid born after 1902, that there's a chance that by the time they reach their mid-20s, the St. Louis Cardinals will have been involved in a World Series. No other team can claim that. Okay? That is an incredible feat. And for that, I admire the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, I admit, a little bit childish, but this gives you an idea of where I was mentally about 6 years ago, where I am today. I was semi-informally engaged to a woman who I was planning to marry 6 years ago. Her name is Angie, and I am sorry that I broke her heart. But one of the reasons why I broke up with her is that I'm still a die-hard Royals fan. She couldn't understand how I could admire the Cardinals or even inclined to love the Cardinals, but still be a Royals fan. But part of my personality is that I go for the downtrodden, the beaten, the ones that have the odds most stacked against them. And trust me, the Royals have the lowest budget of any MLB team in the country. And I've been a Royals fan since I was 4 or 5 years old, all since before I knew Angie. But so for me, I like to root for the underdog in most situations. But we actually got into a fight over baseball teams. But the real issue was about our philosophy of life. You know, it's fun to be with a winner all the time. You know, you have a reputation to uphold. But sometimes you got to root for the little guy. And sometimes the little guy could come along and beat the socks off of the big guy. And that's why part of the reason why I love the Royals is that they're still full of surprises. Now, I know they have sucked since 1986. Yeah, but there was a prospect earlier this year, a couple of months ago, there was even talk of them earning a wild card spot to possibly get into the World Series. And if they were been successful into that, we'd be talking about another I-70 series right about now. And you bet your ass I would try to attend at least one of these games. So that's where we stand. But I wish the Cardinals all the best in this, even though I'm pretty confident that they will win the World Series. But we shall see. Well, coming up in just a few minutes, I'll have news headlines for today, along with news of the weird a little bit later on after the CBS World News Roundup, the Composer's Datebook, the Writer's Almanac, celebrity birthdays, today in history, plus a whole lot more, all on this edition of First Cup. Coming up next will be things you need to know, trends of the day. You're listening to First Cup, and I'm your host, Joe Haffner.